Alrighty, chat. What is this? Criss Angel's scary obsession with David Blaine. Uh-oh. I do remember David Blaine was kind of everywhere. Same with Criss Angel. I think it was like an MTV or something.
What started as a professional rivalry over who the best magician was turned into an all-out obsession when Criss Angel realized he was living in the shadow of David Blaine. On radio shows and in interviews, Criss was always quick to throw shade at David.
You know what's kind of funny is, like, you know, David Blaine, which, you know, I give him a lot of credit for what he's doing, but is known because of who he dates. I want to be known for what I do.
Criss even dedicated an entire television segment to mocking Blaine, using a full hair and makeup team to transform himself into his arch nemesis to sell the joke. Years of tension kept building until Criss finally decided to confront David face to face backstage, and Blaine's response was more brutal than anything Criss Angel could.
Please tell me he's like, I don't even know who you are. That would just kill me. Magic drama. You'd be surprised.
Could have imagined.
Yeah,
David Blaine had a vision for magic that nobody else did at the time. Most magicians relied heavily on visual spectacles, big sets, elaborate props, flashy costumes, and exaggerated theatrics designed to overwhelm the audience. David did the opposite. He wore plain clothes, was emotionless in the face, and gave small, focused crowds of people magic on the street for free. Stephen Chow, a former Fox executive who was chosen to produce Mr. Blaine's special, put it this way: "He's the only magician I've seen who wasn't a geek. Blaine's approach made every trick feel personal and more real. It wasn't happening on a stage far away, it was happening right in front of your face." He famously said in 1997,
did he take her tooth out and then put her tooth back in? What the hell?
The reason for magic is to enlighten people or make them happy, or let them forget their problems for 2 minutes. David's style and his mindset were authentically humble, and it made him stand out. He walked around New York City filming himself performing tricks for regular people and tried to pitch it to television networks. ABC executives decided to take a chance on him, and it paid off. David Blaine's street magic was packed with tricks and illusions, like when Blaine twisted his hand around several times in front of a licensed doctor outside a local hospital.
What?
This way, facing towards you. The other way. Turn to the left. Yeah, more to the left. Twist it so it's straight. All right, now move your foot back a little bit so you can see this. Okay. Twist your hand inwards a little bit. Like this. Go ahead. Okay. Inwards a little bit, slowly. A little bit more. Right. Here's where it starts to get painful. With your left hand, could you grab my right hand? My fingers?
With my left hand?
Yeah, grab my fingers and twist them a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Ow. Keep going. A little bit more. Yeah, keep going. Out. No.
Mind freak.
No, keep going. Keep pushing. Keep going. Yeah.
Dude, if you took this away and didn't have the visuals, I think this would be very lewd.
I want to keep going. Hey, David, keep going. No, keep going. Keep going. You hear that crack?
The show became a resounding success.
That definitely was real.
Not just because of the tricks, but rather the stunned responses from each small audience.
13. All right, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. See, it's as soon as you connect it, that's when it happens. See, where's the card? See what I'm saying? They switch it from hand to hand. That's what it is. Here, look, check it out. Watch like this. Ready? Look, watch.
Yeah, it's very casual, nonchalant.
No, look, watch. Look. Here's the switch, right? It's right here, right? All right.
Yeah.
See that's the move, right? Yo, I'm gonna give you something. Hold this. I got something for you, man. I got a little treat, like a present for you.
However, a lot of practicing magicians were not too fond of David. In a moment of bitter jealousy, Jamie Ian Swiss, a magician and columnist for the Genie Magic magazine, said his only skill is removing money from a wallet and handing it to a person behind the counter. David refused to respond to the hate.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of people. Like, I don't know. I think it's impressive to have that good of sleight of hand. Nobody else noticed.
because ultimately he was successfully
magic's
completing his
about
mission of
skill.
making magic accessible to as many people as possible,
Yeah, I
and in
don't
doing
know.
so, he actually made it cool to a mainstream audience. Now, there was another magician called Criss Angel who had actually been trying to make magic look cool for years, but the harder he tried, the more it started to work against him. But before we dive deeper, football is back, and there's never been a better time to check out the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings. DraftKings is your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. They've got odds on almost every sport you can think of, and if you want to make whatever you're watching even more exciting, DraftKings has you covered. You can bet live on in-progress events right as they happen. Right now, DraftKings has a great offer. New customers bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Sign up using DraftKings.com/PatrickCC or use my promo code PatrickCC.
Get a little dopamine up in that bitch. Yep, I bet you have. You say you don't. Not yet. Ooh,
Criss
I like
Angel
your
had been
thinking.
doing magic longer than David Blaine, but was less popular. A lot like Blaine, Criss spent most of his early magic career performing for small audiences, but he genuinely felt like a career magician by the age of 14, performing at small birthday parties and entertaining guests at a
So
Long
wholesome.
Island restaurant. But his initial motivation to do magic tricks for others wasn't exactly as humble as David's. I felt this incredible sense of power that an adult didn't understand how it worked, but
It's a little bit egotistical, but sure. I don't know. I could chalk it off as like, oh, I'm really cool and like I know how to do this. A little bit of a red flag. I don't know.
I did. In 1987, he launched a public access magic show called Hot Kicks. 20-year-old Criss looked and dressed like a Guns N' Roses tour groupie. In 1994, Angel made his primetime television debut in the ABC one-hour special, Secrets. Through the mid to late 90s, Criss appeared on various television specials and talk shows, using these spots to showcase his edgy, rock-influenced take on magic. He leaned heavily into the dark magician
Hot
image.
chicks.
Gothic leather clothing and heavy metal soundtracks complemented the grungy aesthetic of the 90s.
I thought magicians were very cheesy, quite honestly. I was much more about
you're cheesy too.
the generation of MTV.
I think it's a different kind of cheesy. I think playing into like the dark, I worship Satan kind of thing. Like I think that's cheesy too.
You
in
know,
my opinion.
Zeppelin.
If you like it, like,
and
that's
some
fine,
of
I'm
the
just
80s
saying.
bands and, you know,
Gotta go from band for
music
band
and
for
that
this, man.
culture and that vibe and that energy that you got from it. And
Vibes.
magicians weren't doing that.
Now, there was no structured career path to being a successful magician.
No.
Unlike musicians or actors, magicians didn't have a thriving mainstream pipeline. There were no Netflix specials, no social media
Yeah.
clips to go viral overnight, and TV networks only greenlit magic shows sparingly. If you weren't already a big-name magician, such as Copperfield or Penn and Teller, you had to get extremely creative to market yourself and make money. And for someone
And
like
even Penn and Teller, they drifted off into like analyzing magic tricks made by other people as opposed to doing them themselves towards the end. Like they had to branch out because like at a certain point you've done everything that you can, or at least you think you've done. So you just kind of have to be like, all right, what's next? What do I do?
Criss, who
Yeah.
basically wanted to be the
just
first
cool.
rock star
I like their
magician, the
shows.
market
I did.
was even narrower. Despite the odds being stacked
they're so
against him,
edgy.
Criss had an incredible drive. He was well into his 30s, still fully dedicated to making this dream into a career. Meanwhile, David Blaine rapidly passed him in popularity. Blaine's ABC show made him a household name, and he quickly shifted from simple card tricks to unbelievable endurance stunts that blurred
His
the
face
line
is
between illusion and human
purple.
survival. Unlike a magic trick where you know there's some secret method behind the illusion, Blaine's endurance feats felt brutally real. Although certain
Well,
precautions
he's like doing his own stunts too. Like I feel like people get there's more excitement to it. I'm glad he hasn't. I don't think he's done anything like really extremely bad. He's not passed away from his own stunts, has he? I don't think so. He's still alive.
are set to ensure that
People
he
get
doesn't
excited about
die.
that
There's
shit.
no obvious trick to things like being buried alive, which is a stunt Blaine dedicated to his idol, Harry Houdini, who was buried 6 feet underground without a casket almost a century earlier. In 1999, David spent 7 days sealed inside of a glass coffin under a water tank in New York City. His friend Bill Kalush initially suggested that he fake the stunt, but Blaine refused because he thought it would actually be easy.
So we got a coffin from Queens where actually Houdini was buried. buried. I bought a
The voice is lowered so that it can get around copyright strikes.
coffin. We brought it back to his house, and then I would just practice sleeping in the coffin. Then suddenly, I know, but then suddenly I realized you don't eat food, and then if you have a little thing to go to the bathroom, I did 4 days like nothing. So I'm like, okay, I can do a week.
Blaine did not eat for 2 weeks before the stunt, but continued drinking water prior to and during the stunt. He was sealed in a see-through coffin beneath 6 tons of water. Oxygen was transferred in and out of the holes above his head. A catheter was inserted into Blaine's bladder to safely drain any urine, and spectators could come and go whenever they want.
I didn't even think of that. Where does he shit and piss? Yeah, that makes sense.
He said people would shine flashlights on him at 2 a.m. to make sure he was really in there. This was no trick. This was the real deal,
damn,
but he took it even further. The following year, he executed his Frozen in Time stunt. David Blaine was
I heard about this. This is crazy.
fully encased in ice in the middle of Times Square while lightly dressed in a long-sleeve shirt, pants, and a beanie. He had a tube that supplied air, water,
He's just
and
a
another
freak,
that
man.
removed urine. The ice was transparent and elevated so people could see that he was inside the entire time. He couldn't sleep or move because touching the ice for too long would cause frostbite. He just had to stand there, freezing, alone with his thoughts. Around hour 55, his eyes went out and he began hallucinating. He was talking to imaginary people, felt like spiders were crawling all over him, and said that minutes took hours to pass by. On the brink of death, medics were forced to remove him from the ice after 63 hours. This time,
Did they have vitals on him the whole time just in case he was like close to dying? I'm assuming that's what they had, right?
critics were silenced. There was no way to fake this. Whether you saw it on TV or in real life, you knew this guy was on a
poor
different
guy.
level.
He can't even talk!
What's interesting is that almost immediately after Frozen in Time, Criss Angel performed a somewhat similar stunt. He spent 24 hours submerged in a tank of water, also in the middle of Times Square. Now at the time, Criss wasn't known for endurance feats. He was actually still promoting his theater show, Criss Angel Mind Freak off-Broadway, and reviews were not so great. Though in interviews, Angel has poo-pooed the cheesy nature of standard magic shows, his disappearances, quick changes, and levitations are really standard Blackstone Copperfield stuff. A bit of a letdown considering the impressive costumes and postmodern flashiness. Criss's career was headed in the wrong direction, so is it fair to assume that he may have taken inspiration from the guy who was getting worldwide praise in the same field? In 2002, Criss put himself in handcuffs and shackles, then submerged himself underwater in a cramped chamber. The entire time he breathed through an air hose and occasionally interacted with spectators through the glass.
Crazy.
And of course, in the video edit, they had to
do people do
include
this?
someone saying that David was inferior to Criss Angel.
I think he's better than David Blaine, in my opinion.
However, even though Criss's challenge was physically demanding, it lacked the life or death edge that Blaine's challenges carried. In his post-stunt interview, he seems entirely fine and full of excitement and energy. Then, in a moment, he is seemingly lifeless, being hauled into an
I
ambulance.
don't think this is magic though. I think this is more like akin to like Buddhist monks putting their body through like trauma. I think we kind of lost the plot, no? Yeah, it's not magic.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Like, yeah, it's impressive.
Thank you,
Obviously, I couldn't fucking do that. You have to train for this shit.
Everybody very
You
much.
can't just do it.
New York is the greatest place in the world! New York City!
Thanks, Chris. Oh my God, sign my titties.
Even if someone thought Criss and David might be neck and neck when it comes to who can push the limits of the human body further, David would quickly prove that there was no competition. In the middle of Manhattan, Blaine stood atop a 2-foot wide pillar nearly 10 stories tall for 2 days and 2 nights. No food, no water,
Wow.
no sleep, and nothing to sit or lean on. There was also no safety net or precautions set in place in case he fell. Most people
my
could not stand
God.
for 35 hours
I mean, thank God it didn't happen, but imagine being the unlucky, like, I don't know, passerby, and then he just goes splat on his head, man. How horrible.
straight, let alone being
thing
100
it
feet in the
didn't
air,
happen.
constantly battling the wind. In his 2003 stunt, Above the Below, he'd be confined in a 3-foot by 7-foot by 7-foot transparent plexiglass block suspended 30 feet in the air in London. His goal was to stay in this box for over a month with no food, access to bathrooms, just enough resources to survive, and he
How do you
lasted 44
poop?
days.
Do you just poop in a bucket and then like toss it out the little window? Like, what's going on? Do these freaks not poop either? Are they like girls? Do they have the superpower of not pooping? They just don't poop.
One of the most important experiences in my life.
Whoa. He's like so fried. The dude is cooked, man.
I've learned more in that little box than I have in years.
Wow, dude.
With each new stunt,
going
David
crazy.
Blaine proved he was not tricking people, but testing the body and spirit in front of millions. He wasn't just a magician, he was an artist, receiving worldwide recognition and
artist.
praise. Interviews on mainstream talk
Get it?
shows, fans across the globe, and
Learned what, Lamau? There's some people who, like, even non-religious people argue that experiencing pain of such magnitude voluntarily, like foregoing food and water, enlightens and quote-unquote lightens your spirit to things that cannot be perceived by a normal person who has all of these needs met, and they start hallucinating. Like, cast aside like any religious thoughts that you're thinking of, people have starved themselves, like Buddhist monks and like even normal people before battle, to like understand the universe. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I've never done it, but like it's a very common thing. It's been around for thousands of years.
superstar girlfriends like
Yeah,
Kill Bill
it's super
actress
crazy.
Daryl Hannah. Blaine made
forsake,
magic
like,
interesting
you know,
and respected on a
materialism stuff
mainstream level, proving to
and
networks
food.
that audiences were entertained by it. So when A&E took a chance on Criss Angel's reality TV show called Mind Freak, it was clear that they wanted their own magic star to capitalize on this cultural wave. However, Criss could not compete with David's level of dedication. Blaine treated his stunts like scientific experiments, spending months or years
he's
training with
crazy.
world-class doctors, freediving experts, and neurosurgeons to understand the limits of the human body. Every second
That's
of his
interesting.
preparation was real, and the
Interesting.
risks could have cost him his life. Criss, on the
Yeah,
other
he could've
hand, was
died, man.
producing dozens of Mind Freak episodes per year, and the further you look into the formula behind it, the more you realize it is the furthest thing from magic. Criss Angel blew the minds of anyone under the age of 12 with the release of his show Mind Freak. He accomplished incredible stunts like walking on water in a hotel pool filled with people. There's absolutely no way that there could be some sort of plexiglass bridge to help him with this stunt, or when he levitated from one building to another, and he did it in front of people. Or my personal favorite, when he told this little girl that he would transform into a 10-year-old boy by sliding down this slide at a playground.
Maybe I could be 10 years old again.
Mind Freak!
Criss Angel also consistently claimed that he could walk
Tap
through solid
magic.
objects, such as doors or closed windows.
I've proven that a solid can pass through
Chad,
a
I can
solid.
fly.
I've demonstrated
I'm
it
mind
literally
freak.
when I passed through storefront windows.
Oh my god, no way!
As I passed through a taxi cab. Go!
He would tell you to look, but then cover up what you are supposed to look at in the name of magic. Him walking through a metal fence
It's
was
still impressive in its own way because you still have to figure out how he did it, but it's not like he's testing his body. And he's like really hung up on the fact that this is supposed to be like actual magic. Anyone understands the concept of magic, that it's not real. Like, you're not defying like logic.
one of the most
You just have to
egregious
find out how he
examples.
did it, which might be a secret. Or it's like a, you know, a trap door or whatever, and he has to make it look convincing. Like, it's still acting in a performance piece. I don't hate magic as a concept. I think it's neat.
And of course, a
You still have to
magician
do
is
it.
never supposed to reveal his secrets. But the problem
Yeah.
is, magicians have an unspoken agreement with their audience. We know it's an illusion, but we also know it's possible with skill, misdirection, or ingenuity. Mind Freak didn't feature illusions you could admire or potentially recreate. It was nothing more than a product of crappy reality TV. The key
Whoa.
components that made Mind Freak work had nothing.
They also have this unspoken rule, even so when Penn and Teller do this like finding the next really cool magician and giving them like a promotion. It's like America's Got Talent, but for magicians. They write down how they think the guy does it, and if they can't figure it out, then that guy gets like, you know, a prize, right? It's really cool because like they don't give it away to the audience because obviously you still want to like, you know, still have that secret, but people try and figure out the magician's tricks all the time.
Nothing to do with Criss Angel actually
Even Penn
defined
and Teller don't
physics.
tell.
Firstly, the show relied heavily on stooges, which is the term for paid actors pretending
Chat, you're my stooges.
to be random bystanders who would gasp and scream right on cue. Camera effects did the rest. Strategic cuts, tricky angles, and edits that concealed wires, trapdoors, or entire set pieces. And sometimes these can be really interesting. Like when he laid on this bed of nails and had an 8,000-pound truck rest on top of him.
Yeah,
you know it's not real, but it does genuinely have you wondering how they did that. But they often got lazy. One of his favorite tricks was just putting a tarp over something and then making it disappear. It's such a wildly unimpressive stunt that is so easy to edit. It just leaves you to believe that this show was made for children. Like in this clip where he puts a bike underneath a tarp and you can see the bottom of the wheel. Then in the next frame, the shape looks entirely different and he magically makes the bike disappear.
Ow! What? No way! Chad, what? No way!
Man, there's gotta be something here. You look at my back.
That's crazy.
I swear half of this show was just him.
Imagine being the Stooges that have to get paid and be like, wow, and then they wheel away the fucking bike. And you just have to stand there and be like, okay, all right, now we're rolling again. Okay, keep it going, let's
covering
go.
things up with a tarp and making it disappear, and then levitating to his next stunt. And then there were the Mind Freak consultants, which were basically just actors that were hired to provide testimonials that everything he was doing was real.
Banana Cheek, Mind Freak consultant. Yo, where do I sign up for this job? How much do you get paid?
And high stakes.
There's real danger involved with this, and I try to talk him out of doing this. Criss Angel is certainly one to help people escape from the everyday mundane with the stunts that he performs.
Yeah, Banana Cheeks,
Criss
you're
has
so
played with fire
right.
before, and he's not been burned. A little bit, but not enough to hurt him.
Why do they all have these like fake names that sound really silly? Why can't we just have like John Magic? Why does it have to be like Joe Monty, like Monty Python or something?
This time, he's putting himself in a situation. Why? Because it's not enough. It's an amping things up there.
As the seasons went on, the episodes got more insane, unbelievable, and uncreative. Like, look at this clip where he acts like a forklift went through his stomach. Or when he cut a woman in half.
Pull right now. Let's pull.
Oh my god! This happens with streamers too. You have to like keep the fucking hype going. Yeah, otherwise people don't watch you. You gotta cut a woman in half on stream.
He seemed to be obsessed with the idea that he could defy or cheat death. And so was David Blaine. But the difference was, David was actually doing it. Criss was just making it look like he was doing it. Now, was it wildly unhinged and entertaining TV? Yes. When Mind Freak aired in the summer of 2005, it drew in over 1 million viewers on average before peaking at 3 million during the third season's premiere. However, the biggest problem with the show is that Criss insisted so hard on presenting everything as authentic and real.
Yeah, but you can argue that WWE is like that too. Like, really, I think there's a lot of shows and like, you know, gimmicks that really try to sell it to like a dumb audience. To this day, there's adults that think WWE is real, man. Come on, this isn't that far-fetched.
Because when you hear him taunt and challenge David Blaine, it starts to make you think his ego got to his head. The beef started when Blaine attempted to break the world record for holding his breath underwater. The record at the time was just shy of 9 minutes. He could already do a few minutes easily, but his theory was that if he could spend 7 days submerged in a tank of water, his body would adapt to the conditions, and then he would remove the oxygen and escape from the tank slightly over 9 minutes to break the world record. After 7 days submerged in a tank at Lincoln Center, Blaine removed his breathing apparatus and attempted his escape. However, the movement of his body...
Whoa, look at his hands! It's the Giga wrinkles, the prune hands.
Body caused him to waste additional oxygen. He blacked out at 7 minutes 8 seconds and had to be saved, making the stunt a failure. Criss Angel took this
I actually saw this, yeah, on YouTube.
Moment to claim that David was copying his 24 hours underwater stunt from 2002.
But he has no oxygen. He could have died. Like, what do you mean? What?
He just did something that wasn't so successful.
What, the orb thing?
In water. It was like, dude.
It's like, what? He's in a big, like, goldfish bowl for what? It was 2 days, 3 days?
It was a long day. The thing is, I did it already, and it's just weird why he would have...
It's just weird, Chad. It's just
whatever.
weird.
You know, he's a good guy. I wish him the best.
You could tell he had been waiting for a reason to call him out.
You know what he's going through, and I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why he is doing something that's been done before. I don't know if he's running out of stuff.
Now the two...
What do you mean? They had the bury alive thing that Harry Houdini did. Is that copying? Like, you're just doing something someone else did. There's only so many things you can do. Man, the ego's kind of crazy.
Stunts were very different. Criss did 24 hours underwater just to make a grand escape, whereas Blaine did 7 days. Plus, he was trying to break the record for holding one's breath. And Chris's 24-hour stunt came after Blaine's stunt, where he was encased in ice for over 2 days. It is wild for Criss to compare the one time he did an endurance feat to any of David's, but he didn't stop there.
You know, just to cut to the chase, I respect David. You know, he is a creation of television and did a fantastic job doing what he does. I'm willing, and I've said this before, I think his biggest fear is me, because I'm the real deal.
The guy who pretends he can fly and cut people in half for a living.
Chat, everybody knows it. I'm the original VTuber. Nobody else can be a VTuber like me, you know. If you start doing what I do, watch out, because you're just trying to be me. Don't copy me.
Hires actors to react to it and uses heavy special effects to create the illusion, calling himself the real deal, is bold. He also claimed that David talked badly about him in the press, and I looked extremely hard to find proof of that, but I could not.
I'm willing to put everything on the line because, you know, the truth of the matter is he talked a big game in the public about me. It was on the radio, and, you know, but when it came down to it, we tried to contact him to set it up. He wanted no part of it. So I'm just the type of person that, you know, what I do is what I say is what I do, and I just expect people to, you know, be the same. And unfortunately, he wasn't. But anytime, you know, I'm willing. I'll quit my career if I lose. I'm totally serious. I mean, I have anything he wants to do, anytime, any place.
Criss was hellbent on having some sort of trick-for-trick magic duel like they were boxers in a ring. He insisted on turning magic into a competition, and no true magic fan is sitting at home.
Whoa, I cast Blue Eyes White Dragon. Oh no, you summoned Exodia. Ah! What the fuck is 1v1 magic? Excuse me? Gotta go band for band.
Saying, my favorite magician could beat your favorite magician. It's not like sports where you keep score and crown a champion. It's about creating wonder, mystery, and letting an audience suspend their disbelief for a moment.
Honestly, I can make a good allegory for this. There's no such thing as the best artist in the world. It's just people enjoying a medium and doing the best they can. If someone says that one artist is better than the other, it is subjective. You can obviously draw a line on like what is good and bad. Someone performing some card tricks is not as good as, like, you know, a guy making, I don't know, like doing the coin trick where it like disappears and then swaps places, and then there's a guy in the sky that's flying across the screen. It's different. But you can say that because it's a medium of art. It's a performance. One actor is obviously better than the other, but there's a certain level that you reach where it's like you're an actor. There's no more that you can do above another person.
Plus, I found no evidence of this magic duel that he claims David was running from. He even had the audacity to claim that David Blaine, who was much more famous than Criss Angel, was only popular because he was dating superstar models and actresses.
You know, it's kind of...
So then start dating supermodel and actresses. I don't know. Start dating them. What?
Funny is, like, you know, David Blaine, which, you know, I give him a lot of credit for what he's...
If anything, I don't know who the fuck David Blaine's dated. I'm gonna be real. I know who David Blaine is.
He's known because of who he dates. I want to be known for what I do.
What makes this criticism even worse is that Criss Angel was the one dating way more high-profile
Is that Britney Spears?
women. Britney Spears, Cameron Diaz, Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, just to name a few.
Oh my
It was starting to look more and
This
more
guy's
like
a
Criss was
player.
just jealous. David had
Yeah,
performed
he
for
is.
sitting presidents in the White House, like when he had a funny interaction with George Bush, shaking his arms and managing to steal his watch with some sleight of hand.
Imagine being the Secret Service that's like around the president, and he tells them like, "I'm gonna steal your boss's watch," and they're like, "Okay." Like he has to tell him, obviously, right?
Say a number from 1. Well, think of a number from 1 to 20.
Yeah, got it.
17? Here, I got a present for you.
Was it 17?
Right, it was
17?
Yeah. But I have a present for Mr. President. It's
So what?
Took my watch off.
Meanwhile,
No
Criss Angel
way.
brought in a Barack Obama impersonator and acted
This is so weird. You're being such a little clout chaser. What the fuck?
like it was
Not the real Barack, an impersonator. Gee, I wonder what you're trying to say.
really him. David never responded to any of Chris's criticism, but Criss
Based.
was on a warpath. He was determined to send a message to
Oh
Blaine,
my
something that
God,
he would have to
based.
respond to. So he dedicated an entire segment on his show Mind Freak to making fun of David Blaine. In the episode, Criss did a full hair and makeup transformation
You are not defeating the allegations of having him live rent-free in your fucking head, man.
to make him look exactly like David. Then he mimicked his stoic voice and demeanor in a way that made him seem boring and dry.
I don't know if I can get off. It's kind of hard. Watch.
What the fuck? Dude, this would be really funny if they were friends. Unironically, if my friends hazed me like this, if like, I don't know, if I was in David Blaine's position, and then like Criss Angel was my friend and he started doing this, I would fucking laugh my ass off. But the fact that he's like unironically mad and upset makes this really pathetic. Like he's actually mad, like full blown, like angry. He's like, I'm mocking
Criss seemed really bent
him.
out of shape that people still talked about
Yeah,
David
like, people
Blaine's
did in
levitation
WWE, but
illusion from over
yeah.
10 years ago at that point.
They're like mocking each other as a joke.
Criss is clearly upset that the only time people talk about his levitations, they mention how obviously fake they are.
I saw these on TV, and my brother and I would start like doing it, like the pose, and we would sit in the living room and like stand up and just like hover our hands around and be like, I'm levitating, bro. Look at me. Yeah, I'm a mind freak. Dude, my brother would walk up to me and like go like, mind freak.
Are we really
watch
supposed
this
to believe this
sometimes.
man
'Cause he's, like,
floated
older than me and he
Shaquille
would put
O'Neal
this on,
over a
like, for
house?
memes.
Like, what are we talking about here? Throughout the sketch, Criss set up multiple failed tricks to make it seem like David was terrible at the craft.
A card. Don't tell me what it is. Queen of Hearts. 7 of Hearts. I want you to think of that number and concentrate on it.
Okay.
The number you're thinking of is 32.
No.
Criss Angel ended this bit by mocking David even further and claiming that his career was in shambles.
7101.
7101.
Huh?
That was the number I was thinking of. It's weird.
Dude.
I think I have to get it for free now because I was thinking in my mind 7101.
Why can't I get it for
I'm David Blaine.
I'm sure at this point you realize
Okay,
this
that's
was no
kinda funny.
rivalry.
I'm
It was a
David Blaine.
one-sided obsession. Criss Angel was so fixated on David Blaine, and David just didn't
Dude, he's just minding his own business, dating hot supermodels. That slow makes him sound high. That's the point. He's mocking him. That's why he's doing it.
care. Within the past 15
You think I
years
give a
since this
fuck?
episode released, David never once mentioned Criss in interviews, never
Based.
clapped back, never even acknowledged him publicly. The hard
Absolute Giga Chad move. the crying soy jack Criss Angel with long hair and what is it called? With eyeliner in his eyes, and the Giga Chat David Blaine, who's like, yeah, I went and risked my life for a stunt. What about you, brother?
The harder Criss tried to tear David down, the more obvious it became that he was measuring his own worth against him. Angel wanted the recognition that Blaine had.
Are they the same age? Let me look it up. David Blaine age. 52. Criss Angel age. 57. He's older! Oh my god! He's 5 years older than him! Criss Angel is 5 years older, and he's this fucking... I would understand. I can understand the dynamic of, like, someone older and it becomes an obsession, but this is, like... This is another level of kind of just being sad. Wow.
Which is silly because he was wildly successful himself. Mind Freak was a cultural phenomenon. His Las Vegas residencies alone generated over $150 million in tourism revenue in a single year, and his global ventures, from touring shows to merchandise and magic kits, have contributed to a net worth estimated between $50 and $70 million. Clearly, there was plenty of room in the world for two magicians to be wildly successful.
And they're different, too. It's not like, you know, David Blaine was like, you know, the goth, I don't know, like a edgy kind of like magician. He was just a dude. Like, this guy has like his own shtick that he could like stick to and have a niche for.
But Criss never let it go. They went in their separate directions for over a decade, both having successful TV shows, one where David does tricks like actually inserting a needle all the way through his hand, and one where Criss Angel still pretends to rip people in half. They both continued to have wildly successful Las Vegas live shows, but ultimately, after all this time, Criss Angel just could not get David Blaine out of his head. And recently, Criss would open up for the first time about his obsession on Steve-O's Wild Ride podcast, sharing that he always felt like he deserved to be on the throne.
Listen, David Blaine, I give props to. He came out, did street magic, you know, blew up before I did. Give him all the props in the world. When he was coming up, you know, I was very aggressive because I had a dream, I had a vision in my mind. I wanted to accomplish it.
He's being
Whatever
a woman.
David
he's talking about dreams.
Doing, I can do it. And I'll do it side by side with him. I guarantee you that whatever he does, I'll last longer, I'll do it better, I'll do whatever. Because I was committed to give my life to beating him or anyone else. Because
and David Blaine just doesn't even acknowledge him. He's probably just so pissed about that, like not even one time.
I had something so bad that I wanted, and he had it. He had a big target on his head.
This is the most honest Criss has been with himself in a long time. He admits that he saw David as a competitive target and that he had the status that Criss always wanted. However, he failed to understand that he created an extremely one-sided rivalry, which is why it was extremely awkward when he approached David Blaine backstage in 2023 after never meeting in person for their entire lives.
I saw him, and
kind of like Hassan and Asman. A little bit, yeah, I can see what you're saying, because Hassan has openly admitted that he has gotten a little bit irritated over like viewer counts and how much bigger of a audience Asman has. Yeah, it's not to this extent. Maybe a little bit, but like not to this extent where he literally just fucking like, oh my god. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I
can
went
see
to
what
the
you're
show
saying.
and I was like, dude, you know, I just want to wipe the slate clean. I've never met you before, so I just want to say,
David
like,
Blaine
no hard
doesn't
feelings.
care.
Like, I apologize for anything that might have offended you or anything like that. I took off. I had a beautiful, beautiful ring, 20 G's. I took it off and I said, this is for you. And I said, let's build a friendship and stuff like that. Because I'm talking, this was in like the early 2000s that this went down. And I gave it to him, and he's like, oh, I can't accept this because I'm a minimalist. And then he called.
Yeah, that's his prerogative. What? Why are you offended? I don't get it.
Called this friend over and was like, hey, let's put it in a museum. You know, like, you could do whatever you want with it. I'm giving it to you. And then the guy comes in. He's like, oh, okay, thank you, Chris. I was like, well, I gave it to David.
Yeah.
If he wants to give it to you, that's his business because it's a gift from me. And then I was like, hey, let's do a picture. And he's like, oh, I can't do a picture with just you and me alone. And it's just bizarre, dude. Like, just
That I don't know.
bizarre behavior. And it's like, dude, grow up.
Criss failing to understand why David wants nothing to do with
Yeah,
him
maybe he
is
just
peak
doesn't want you to be
delusion,
around
and
him,
continuing to
weirdo.
claim that it was David who
It's
was
his
in the wrong is
prerogative.
dangerous levels of coping.
Wasn't like we had a fist fight. It's not like we ever even met before. It's not like we ever even had a
Yeah.
conversation on the phone. Nothing. It was just some banter in the press because I wanted to succeed. And you know, he's
wanted to
ripped me
beat
off
him.
with stuff that I've done. You know, like I've been underwater for 24 hours, then he borrowed that, and then he did
Borrow.
it later, which is totally cool. Like, God bless him. Like, it's not a big deal.
Criss Angel always wanted David
It's not a big deal, but I'm gonna bring it up every chance I get.
Blaine to validate him as an equal or even
doesn't
as
make
a
any sense
rival,
to
but
me.
David never gave him that satisfaction. Not once did Blaine clap back in an interview, never acknowledged him in the press, never even hinted that Criss was on his radar, and that silence
damn, what a
spoke louder
solid
than
fucking
anything. To David, there was no
destruction of his
rivalry,
ego.
no competition, nothing to respond to, and since Criss was incredibly successful himself, he had to sit there and justify why David wanted nothing to do with him. Oh, he must be the weird one. Oh, he is insecure about copying me, or he is afraid of facing me in a magic duel. He spent years projecting his insecurities on
If someone told me like, Alana, we need to have like a react off, I'd be like, bro, shut the fuck up and go back to reacting, man. Let me do my own react and you do your own react over here. What the fuck do you mean a react off?
to
Yeah,
someone who
VTuber
just
off. That would
didn't
be even
care.
better.
David
I'm the
simply
better
went about his
VTuber.
career
I swear to
unbothered. Criss thought that
God.
once they finally met in real life after over
Who's
20
reacting harder? Grr.
years, he will get the response he
See how
wanted.
retarded
And
that
better yet, he
sounds?
could be seen as the better person for squashing the beef. But instead of finally getting closure, he was met with the same thing he'd always gotten from David Blaine. Nothing. And nothing stings
Indifference.
more than realizing your greatest rival never even saw you as one.
That's actually, wait, that went hard. Your greatest rival didn't even see you as anything. That's deep, man. That's deep. That was really fun. Did you guys enjoy that? Clappies, man. Patrick CC, everybody. He did his work, man. Yeah, I don't even think about you. Or even better, what if David Blaine had like a vision inside of the tank and he realized that this guy is so obsessed with him and he has such an ego that he had like an ego death, which is really common in like situations where you put your life at risk voluntarily, like starving yourself or like burying yourself or putting yourself underwater in risky situations, just like the Buddhist monks did. And he had like an ego death and he realized like it's really literally not worth it to like invest into his like emotions, which is how he's like a minimalist and lives his life, you know? I don't know. It could be. I don't know. I could be talking out of my ass. I don't know. Very cool. Very cool.